You think the countryside is quiet and peaceful? Think again. These 5 true scary stories will make you look over your shoulder next time you're alone. A class trip gone wrong. A prank that almost became a nightmare. A moonlit beach visit with hidden danger. And a ski lift turned into a bloodbath. Some stories make you scream, others you never forget. Jane, the girl who wouldn't let go. My name is Leo, and I was 14 years old when this happened. I lived in a small European country at the time. My school, we used to have field trips at the end of 8th grade. These trips lasted about a week, and they were usually fun. But this one became a memory I'll never forget for all the wrong reasons. There was this girl named Jane. She used to be very quiet and shy. She didn't have many friends, but people liked her because she was kind. She never got bullied or anything like that. Sometimes we would chat a little on Facebook, but we weren't close. I didn't like her that way or dislike her either. She was just a normal classmate to me. On this school trip, we went to an island. Everything started out fine. My friends and I were hanging out, smoking a few cigarettes in our room, and exploring the island with the teachers. That's when I noticed Jane was always walking near me. First, I thought it was a coincidence. I didn't say anything. But then she started to act different. She would touch my arm, hug me suddenly, and follow me around. On the 3rd day, we took a cruise to another nearby island. Jane sat next to me the whole time. She had a camera and took dozens of pictures. Most of them were of me. That made me feel uncomfortable. When I asked her to stop, she laughed and started talking in strange British and Irish accents. I didn't know what to say. I just smiled and said things like "that's nice," hoping she would stop. But it didn't stop. One day I asked Jane to come talk with me privately in the woods. I wanted to ask her directly if she had feelings for me. She said no, and claimed it was all a misunderstanding. Then she told me her life story. She said her mom had schizophrenia, and that made her very sad and depressed. I felt bad for her, but I told her that what she was doing, hugging and following, was not okay. While we were talking, my classmates noticed I was missing. They got worried and started looking for me. When they found us, Jane decided to stay behind in the woods. I left, unsure of what she was doing alone. Another day, she came into our hotel room, asking for water. There was water in her own room, but she refused to leave ours. Eventually, we tricked her by saying we were going out to have fun. Only then did she go. That night, things got really creepy. My friend and I went for a walk. When I turned around, I saw Jane following us again. She didn't say anything. She was just walking quietly behind us in the dark. That was one of the scariest moments of my life. We rushed down the shore and hid behind a big rock near a police station. Luckily, she didn't find us. The next day, my best friend got angry and went to Jane's room. He told her to leave me alone. I was mad at him for being rude, but now I understand why he did it. Sometimes you have to be direct, even if it hurts someone's feelings. Later that day, I went to her room to apologize for my friend's words. She was crying in her bed. I tried to calm her down and then left. A friend of mine named Sarah asked me to come talk on her balcony. 2 other girls were there too. They told me that Jane was really depressed and hated her life. While we were talking, I looked up and there was Jane, sitting on a rock, just staring at us. She looked sad and lonely, listening to music. That was the final night of our field trip. After that, I didn't see her as much. She stopped coming to school regularly. There were rumors that she ended up in a psychiatric hospital, but I don't know if that's true. Looking back, I realize how serious things could have become. Jane clearly had emotional struggles, but I also had to protect myself. If someone is making you feel unsafe, even if they seem sad or harmless, you must speak up. It's okay to be polite, but not if it means risking your own safety or peace of mind. The lesson here is simple. It's okay to say no. You don't owe anyone your time or comfort if it makes you feel uneasy. Be kind, but also be firm. You have the right to feel safe. Always. The teacher with a dark secret back in middle school. I wasn't known for being the best behaved student. I was the class clown, always joking and playing pranks on other kids, and sometimes even on the teachers. Because of that, I never got picked for anything special. But one year, I really tried to change. I worked hard to be good, and finally, I was chosen to go on a weekend school trip. I was so excited. It felt like a reward. Told myself no more pranks this time. I wanted the teachers to see I had changed. One of the teachers leading the trip was Mr. Smith. Everyone in the school, and even in the neighborhood, knew him. He was the kind of teacher who organized events to help people. He did charity runs and collected money for sick kids in the school. Everyone respected him and thought he was a great man. Even I looked up to him. During the trip, he was funny, full of energy, and kept us busy with games and activities. He made everything feel fun and friendly. But on the first night, I noticed something strange. I saw Mr. Smith leave his room several times during the night. I thought maybe he was just checking on kids or making sure no one was causing trouble. I didn't think too much about it. After all, he was the teacher. The next day, my friend who was sharing a room with me dared me to pull one last prank on Mr. Smith. At first, I said no. I wanted to stay out of trouble. But after a lot of pushing, I finally gave in. It was just one little prank, right? We waited until Mr. Smith left his room again that night. Earlier that day, we had grabbed some Scotch tape. While he was gone, we stretched the tape across the doorway of his room like a spider web. It was silly, but harmless. We waited and waited. I started to fall asleep, but then bam, he walked right into it. Stumbled and laughed a little when he realized what had happened. He looked right at me and said, "You're very lucky this isn't the 70s. Because I would have come after you by now, and I would have enjoyed it too." Then he laughed again. At the time, I didn't really understand what he meant. I thought it was just an old man trying to be funny in a weird way. My friends and I laughed too and went to sleep. Nothing happened that night. Everything seemed normal, but for years later, everything changed. I was home one day when I saw a news report. Mr. Smith had been arrested. He wasn't the good man we all thought he was. He had been hiding a terrible secret. Mr. Smith had abused children, more than 40 kids over many years. Most of them were girls. 2 of the cases happened on the very school trip I had gone on. I couldn't believe it. I felt sick. I had been so close to someone who was doing horrible things. I remembered how he joked with me that night after the prank. It didn't seem funny anymore. It felt creepy. He even tried to hurt one of the girls who said she would report him. Thankfully, she survived, and because of her, everything came out. He was arrested and went to jail. At first, he got more than 10 years in prison. But after 6 years, he was released early under a new name. That didn't last long. He was arrested again after more crimes, and this time, he never left prison. Other inmates found out what he had done, and one day he was killed in jail. Our town was shocked. Everyone who had once praised him now felt betrayed. The man who ran races for charity, who smiled at kids and helped people, had used that kindness to hide who he really was. To this day, no one talks about him. His name has become something people avoid mentioning. It's like the town wants to forget he ever existed. As for me, I still think about how close I came to something terrible. If things had gone differently, maybe I wouldn't be here telling this story. I was lucky, very lucky. This story taught me that not everyone who seems nice can be trusted. Sometimes the people who hide the worst secrets were the biggest smiles. Just because someone helps others or does good things doesn't mean they are good inside. Always trust your instincts. If something feels off, speak up. Might save you or someone else from something terrible. A night at the beach that almost went very wrong. This happened in February 2020. My friends and I were all 15 years old and on a school trip to Italy. The trip itself was okay, nothing too exciting, but like many teens, we got a little too curious and made a very bad decision. Our school had booked us in a small hotel. It wasn't anything fancy, just a place to sleep. One night, 2 of my closest friends came up with a wild idea. Let us sneak out and go to the beach. At first I said no. I'm usually the one who plays it safe. But they kept begging and saying it would be fun and no one would find out. I finally gave in. We promised to be careful and quiet. It was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, right? We waited until around 1:00 a.m. We texted each other quietly from our rooms and met up in the hallway. Only 3 of us were in on the plan. Didn't tell anyone else because we were afraid someone might snitch. Our teachers were sleeping in rooms just across the hall. So we tiptoed slowly, barely breathing. My heart was racing the entire time. I was so scared that we'd get caught and my parents would get a phone call in the middle of the night. But we made it to the lobby. Luckily, there was no one at the front desk. That surprised us, but we didn't stop to think. We walked quickly outside and disappeared into the night. None of us spoke Italian, which made what we were doing even more dangerous, but we didn't care. We felt like secret agents. We walked for nearly 2 miles to get to the beach. The streets were empty, which made it even creepier. Finally, we reached the beach. It was quiet and beautiful. The moon was full, and it lit up the sand and the sea with a soft, magical glow. We felt like we had our own secret paradise. My friends were so excited that they ran straight to the water. They rolled up their pants and stepped into the cold sea laughing. I stayed on the shore with their phones and jackets, taking pictures and videos. I thought the others at school would be so jealous when they saw the photos. Then they did something even crazier. They started swimming in their underwear. I laughed at them, but deep down I was worried. What if we got caught? What if something went wrong? And then something did. As I stood alone on the beach, I suddenly got this horrible feeling that we were being watched. I stopped laughing and turned around. 2 men were sitting in the dark, about 30 meters behind us. I only saw them for a second, but one of them looked like he was filming us with his phone. My heart dropped. I called out to my friends, trying to sound calm but serious. They could hear the fear in my voice. I quickly got out of the water, dripping wet and freezing. I told them what I saw. Their faces went pale. We were completely alone.
No one knew where we were.
No one could help us if those men tried something. I whispered, "Grab your stuff. Don't change. Just act normal. Need to leave." Now we started walking quietly, trying not to show fear. But when we reached the stairs that led back up to the street, I glanced behind us. The men were following. I didn't wait. I screamed, "Run!" My friends, still wet and barefoot, ran as fast as they could. We pushed ourselves up hundreds of steps. I didn't look back again, was too scared to see how close they might be. By the time we reached the street, our legs were burning. My friends' feet were cut and bleeding, but we didn't stop. We ran all the way back to the hotel. When we got there, someone was finally at the front desk. He said something in Italian. We didn't understand. We just rushed past him and went straight to our rooms. The next morning, the front desk guy must have told the teachers. One of the teachers was shouting and asking who had left the hotel and why there were bloody footprints in the lobby. My friends took the blame. They didn't mention my name, and I'll always be thankful for that. That night could have ended in tragedy. I think about it all the time. We were so close to something terrible happening. If I hadn't noticed those men, I don't know what would have happened to my friends. That night taught me an important lesson. Always trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And no secret adventure is ever worth your safety. Trapped on the ski lift, this story happened during one of our school's annual winter field trips. We were going skiing in the mountains, something our school did every year. Didn't expect anything weird to happen. I also didn't expect to get stuck in a ski lift with my ex-boyfriend and my current boyfriend. Things got very strange and very scary. Let me explain. I had dated a guy named Tyler a year before. We broke up on good terms, but we didn't really talk much anymore. I was now dating a guy named Wes. He was sweet, shy, and kind of awkward, but I liked him a lot. During the trip, everything was going fine until we lined up for the ski lift. By total bad luck, Wes and I ended up sharing a lift with Tyler and his new girlfriend, Hannah. Yup, for people. 2 couples. One small, cold, swaying metal box hanging high over the mountain. It was the most awkward 10 minutes of my life. Wes was clearly uncomfortable. He kept his head down, pulling his hat over his eyes and squeezing my hand tight. I tried to keep things calm, but then the wind picked up and the ski lift started to rock side to side. I fell into Tyler by accident, and things got even more awkward. Then Hannah spilled hot Coca-Rite onto Wes. He was freezing cold and suddenly covered in sticky, hot liquid. I reached into my backpack, hoping to find a napkin or some water, but all I had was my phone. Wes was starting to look pale. I told him it was okay, that we'd clean it up once we got off the lift, but something was wrong. Wes started to act strange. His hands dropped to his sides, and his head hung low. Then he looked up, and his eyes didn't look normal. They were dark, completely black. Hannah laughed and said, "It's just Coco, don't be such a baby," but I could see something had changed in Wes. This wasn't him anymore. Before I could stop him, he reached out and grabbed Hannah by the neck. In one fast motion, he slammed her head into the glass window of the ski lift. The sound was terrible, like a loud crack hand. She stopped moving. We all froze. Wes didn't stop. He let out a creepy laugh, his teeth turning long and sharp like a vampire's. Then he turned to Tyler. I couldn't even scream. With one hand, Wes grabbed Tyler and twisted like opening a bottle. It was horrible. There was blood everywhere. It was like something out of a horror movie. I was shaking. My whole body went cold, and I realized I was still holding my emergency water bottle, the one filled with ice-cold water. Without thinking, I opened it and threw the water over Wes's head. The change was instant. His sharp teeth disappeared. His dark eyes faded back to brown. He blinked and looked around, confused. He looked at his hands covered in blood and started to cry. "What did I do?" he whispered. I didn't answer. I just hugged him and tried to calm him down. I had no idea what had happened to him. Was it the hot cocoa? A spell? Some kind of monster inside him? I didn't know. But I knew the cold water helped. We were stuck up there for a few more minutes alone, surrounded by horror and silence. When we finally got off the lift, the teachers were waiting. I never saw what happened up there, and Wes and I never talked about it again. I still think about it. What was inside him? Why did something as simple as cold water bring him back? I don't have the answers. But I do know that I saw something that dies, something I hope to never see again. The whisper behind the window. During my last year of middle school, my class went on a weekend trip to a small countryside village. It was a quiet place, surrounded by farms, hills, and big empty fields. There were no streetlights, no traffic, and barely any phone signal. It was supposed to be a peaceful escape, but what happened there still gives me nightmares. We stayed in an old farmhouse that was turned into a guest house for students. It had creaky wooden floors, weird smells, and dusty corners. The kind of place you'd expect to see in a scary movie. My friends and I were all in the same room on the second floor. There were 5 of us. Me, Daniel, Max, Felix, and Leo. We were all excited at first, played games, ate snacks, and stayed up late. On the first night, something strange happened. At around 2 a.m., I was still awake, scrolling through the few messages I could load on my phone. Suddenly, I heard a soft tapping sound. It was very quiet, like fingernails tapping glass. I looked toward the window and froze. There was someone outside. I couldn't see their face, but I saw the shape of a hand against the glass. We were on the second floor. No one could reach that window without a ladder. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't move. I couldn't even call for my friends. After a few seconds, the hand slowly pulled away, and the shape disappeared into the night. I finally whispered, "Guys, wake up." They groaned and mumbled, but no one believed me. They said I was dreaming. I tried to go back to sleep, but I kept staring at the window until the sun came up. The next day, I asked the owner of the farmhouse if someone had been outside during the night. He just looked at me and said, "You kids shouldn't leave your windows open at night. The wind here plays tricks." But I knew it wasn't the wind. That night, we kept the curtains shut and the window locked. Still, I couldn't sleep. Around the same time, 2 a.m., I heard the tapping again. This time, Daniel heard it too. We sat up, terrified. The tapping was louder now, and we heard something even worse, a whisper. It was hard to understand at first, just a low voice saying something over and over again. "Let me in, let me in." Daniel jumped out of bed and turned on the light. Sound stopped instantly. We opened the curtain, but no one was there. The window was still locked. Everyone was awake now, and we were all scared. Max laughed nervously and said it was probably a prank. He even joked that it was a ghost looking for company, but none of us laughed. We stayed up the rest of the night, and nothing else happened. On the last night of the trip, the weather got worse. It was raining hard, and the wind howled around the house. We all agreed to sleep with the lights on, but the whisper came back. Even with the rain and wind, we could hear it. A voice closer this time right outside the window. "Let me in." This time, we saw a face. It was pale, almost white, with dark, empty eyes staring right at us through the window. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. Felix grabbed a flashlight and pointed it at the window, but the face disappeared again. We ran to the teacher's room, banging on the door until they opened. We told them everything. At first, they didn't believe us, but when we took them to our room, they saw the foggy handprint still on the window glass. We left early the next morning. Later, one of the local workers told us a story. A girl had gone missing in that area years ago. People said she used to live in that same farmhouse. Some believed her spirit still wandered the hills, looking for someone to talk to, someone to let her in. I don't know if the story is true. I just know what I saw. If you ever stay in an old house in the countryside and someone knocks on your window at night, don't open it.